Hello, this is Sudhakar Moparthi. Welcome to Crowdsourced AI project. We are going to talk today about conditions in policy document of IAM service. So first, let's understand the concept of conditions, evaluating to true or false, and how AWS is letting us define those conditions in the JSON object and import some JSON objects into our skill bank app and see the structure of those JSON objects. That's today's agenda. So let me share my screen. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what are conditions. Okay, so let me annotate here a little bit. Okay, so I can say X is equal to 5. Okay, that's a condition. If this condition is true, then I want to let something to happen. So this is called the operator. And this is the variable, and this is the constant with which we are comparing. So that's basically that's all. This is an expression. We will evaluate it to true or false. So the X value has to be the input. So for the evaluation engine, you get a whole bunch of variables. Okay, in this case, X, it could be more than one, right? I mean, you're getting some values, X equal to 6 and Y equal to this. And then here, we can combine expressions like Y equal to 4. And then we can combine that with an AND operator. And so that means these two expressions have to be true for the entire expression to be true. So you have a table of key value pairs. Key is X, and let's say you are sending 6, and Y, you are sending 4. This expression will evaluate to false because this is false and true equal to false. So the entire thing will be false. So after the evaluation happens, so you get true or false. And based on that, we will let something happen. So in case of AWS, what is happening is we get a request to access a resource and perform some actions. And if this condition is true, based on those key value pairs, the values, this is the input, and this is the expression that I can define in my policy document. And if it evaluates to true, then it is allowed. So let's see an example of that sort. So let me go here. So basically, you're just at the end of it, you can make it as complex as possible. And what you're really doing is evaluating that entire expression to true or false. Having said that, so these operators equals can be less than, greater than, contains, things like that. Like, so whatever the operator that we want, we can implement in the engine for evaluation. So there is a set of operators that it allows, and there are inputs, and then after evaluating we get the output. Let me clear this. Okay, so here this is what we are focusing on. These resources will be allowed. These actions will be these actions. I'm going to ignore the details, what they are and all that. These actions will be performed, allowed, if on these resources, if this condition is true. That's what they're trying to define in this JSON. So all that struggle, like writing x equal to 5 and y equal to 4, that kind of thing, this is basically in the JSON format, they're writing that condition. Okay. So ARN like is an operator. Okay, and this is like X or Y, these are the keys. And this is the value. If it matches, and where is the input coming from? Okay, this is a policy document. And then every time a request comes to do something in AWS, that request will pass all those set of key value pairs, and so it will pass IAM policy ARN, and then using that value, we will compare that value coming to this value, and then if it evaluates to based on this operator, if it evaluates to true, then this is allowed. These actions are allowed. So it looks complex here, but it is a very simple concept. Okay, just to make you understand what they are struggling here, these operator concept, this key concept and all. So let's go back to our skill bank app and then explain that. Okay. So suppose, let's say I have a policy document, AWS resources, AWS users. Okay, so there's a pick list. So what are the AWS users? So these are all the AWS users that I have in my environment. Okay, so here there is a rule attached to this button. There's a condition. If that is true, then we are letting this resource pick list button to be able to accessible. That means I can click. Okay, so that's kind of a rule. So here in skill bank, we call it as rule. So let's see what is that rule on a IAM user. So pick list rule condition on IAM user. Okay, so here I'm going to just talk about how the rules have to be implemented in any system. In AWS, they just take that JSON object, that condition object, and then they will evaluate. So there has to be some operators. So what are those operators? And, not, or, stuff like that. Okay, logical operators. Okay, data type is Boolean, or it's a number, it's a date, it is a string. So you can have all kinds of different types of data types, so that you can compare numbers, compare strings, etc., etc. All right, let's go and see here. What is rule type? Let me explain in skill bank what is going on here. There are three types of rules. One is x equal to 5. That means what? I only have one variable. Okay, so x equal to 5. If I have that, then it's because there's only one variable. I have in the expression x equal to 5, x is a variable, 5 is a constant. So that's root type 1 variable, because you're using in your expression. Now I can do all kinds of things: equals, greater than, in, length of, less than, equal, not equals. These are all the operations that I can do on that variable. And if I choose a number, I can only do a subset of these operators, which is equal, less than, greater than, stuff like that. If it's a string, then I can do contains and all those other kind of things. Okay. So this is what they're trying to maintain in AWS. So when you see the condition operators in AWS, those are nothing but these kind of things. X equal to 5, that comparison operator. And if it is a Boolean, that means true or false. And then you can only have, let's say, you can only have and or not. I'm going to just say, I'm calling it as of type 4, but bear with me. So the operators here in this case would be and, not, or. That's it for now in Skillbank. But in AWS, similar concepts will be applied in a more elaborated way. Okay. So at the end of it, what we are trying to do is, as in my example, as I said, x equal to 5 and y equal to 4, that and operator. So there are two expressions and then they are ANDed. Or you can say or something, not. These are the three logical operators. Okay, so, and then you can keep combining these expressions with bigger and bigger expressions, and you can evaluate a very complex condition based upon the data coming in. Okay, that input data. Where is the input data in Skillbank? Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, so let me close this object. Okay, so all this is in Skillbank. All this data that you are looking at, name equal to access to manage policies. So if you can think of it like a key and value pairs. So in this object, this particular object, this is one object. This is the object. It has all this data: name, role, users, user groups, etc., whatever. Right? So this data will be given as input, and based on that, that rule will be evaluated. Okay, pick list. So I have a choice to use any of those pieces of information to control whether this button can be accessible or not accessible. Okay. Then depending upon that condition, this button will appear or it will not appear. For example, in this, I don't have pick list because that rule here is failing because we haven't defined any rule. By default, everything is denied in AWS. Same thing here in Skillbank, we also deny everything unless you define a rule, a condition, and then allow it explicitly. So now if we go back and look at this, so it is not that scary. Okay, just focus on this. Okay, so it's an operator, and then this is that x, y value, and this is that value. Okay, so where is this input coming? So this is a document that would be stored in AWS when you define a policy, and that policy will be attached to whatever role, and when somebody makes a request to do these operations, these actions, this document will be evaluated with those values coming in and compare and evaluate. So that's one thing. Now let's see a slightly complex example. So in this example, what they are doing is, in this condition, for all values, string values, if the request has anything else other than these attributes requested, then it will not allow. It will check, because we are saying get the item. Okay, for all values, it has to be message. So that means uh, message and tags are the only data that it will be uh, returned when you ask to get an item in DynamoDB service. It's a database table. You want to get some data, and you are only allowed to get message and tags. That's it. Okay. And if other than that, if you ask username, for example, in this, no, it will deny, because that is not listed. DynamoDB attributes, these are the only ones allowed when you request a get item action. So this is the policy document. Okay. So this is an operator, like our string equals. They have a little bit more elaborate way to do these things for all values. That means, it has to compare all those values coming in that you are requesting. Let's say if I request 3 message, tags, and username, it is trying to make sure that message, tags, and username are here in this list. If it is not, it will deny. So that's like a contains operation, you can say. Okay, so that's all I want to talk, the concept of conditions in policy documents. And I will be importing some of these documents so that we can accumulate different types of actions uh, in our skill bank app. So don't get scared, and you don't have to remember any of these names, or you don't have to remember any of these uh, operators. There will be slight differences, but all they are trying to do at the end of the day with this is x is less than 5, y equal to 4, and combine that with an AND or an operation, and that whole thing that is evaluated, compare that with another expression, combine that with another thing. So they're just trying to evaluate that big expression. And the way to, in Java programming language or other languages, you will write code. If then if all those ifs, or you will combine the expressions and evaluate. So here they are just defining that same thing using this JSON type of object. So they have some names that you have to stick with and all that. So if you are maintaining all these documents in your job, after some time you will start remembering, and otherwise you will just Google document, Google and search, and you will pick up those values and put it in your policy documents and enforce the policies. That if you are a policy administrator, then that's your job, and after working for some time, you will remember what is going on, how complex they are, and you will be able to remember. For understanding purposes, this is good enough. So for your understanding, and when you read all this documentation, it should make sense with this explanation. All right, that's all I have. Thank you very much. And if you are interested to automate as part of this crowdsourced AI project, please get in touch with me. I'll be happy to work with you guys. And then eventually, down the line, we're going to automate everything. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.